Winster Damas is back with us on another Locked On 49ers. We're looking ahead to the Philadelphia Eagles, Brock Purdy versus Jalen Hurts, and a whole lot more coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always, plus a very special guest as we do on Wednesdays. First, I do want to thank everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Big shout out to all the everydayers out there. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL to use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. And joining us today, the man now known as Winkstradamus, who is earning internet fame because of his preseason predictions on the San Francisco 49ers, 11-0 so far on the 49ers. Let's welcome today's guest, Mr. Nicholas Winkler.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Wink, 11-0.
Wow, can't believe it.
It's unbelievable what you're doing so far this year with your predictions. If you would like to take the stage before we do anything else, Wink, on this Winky Wednesday, by the way, Nicholas Winkler, my former radio colleague, former podcast host with me before I started doing Locked On 49ers, joins us weekly as the voice of the fan here on Locked On 49ers. 11-0, Wink. There's probably some fans out there that haven't gone back and listened to that preseason episode of your predictions that might be wondering, I wonder who Wink picked to win this week 13 matchup between the 49ers and the Eagles. So do you want to drop that on them before we even get going?
Yeah, you can go ahead and start flooding my Twitter DMs because there's going to be a lot of hate coming my way. I'm ready for it. This was the final loss I have on the 49ers season. And I'm not happy about it. I don't want it to happen. If I could be wrong about one this year, this is the one I want to be wrong about because we all circled this heading into the year, right? Like, this is a big game. This is a rematch of the NFC Championship game. Go get our payback, this and that. And I had to put some L's on the 49ers schedule. I knew they weren't going to win them all. And this one just seemed like a tough road game in Philly. And it's going to be. But at the same time, there's no reason the 49ers can't win this football game. So go ahead, blame it on me if they lose, but just remember, if they do, I also have the 49ers winning it all and beating Philly later in the postseason. So just how about this? Just save it. Just save it, guys. You've already said that it's my fault when they lose. Go ahead, just keep it to yourself.
A reminder that you want Wink to be right because it means the 49ers beat the Eagles again in a more important game in January on their way to a Super Bowl win. So that tells you what the rest of the win-losses predictions look like for the 49ers, courtesy of Winster Damas before the season started.
I really think this is like a remarkable run. Like, you don't typically see this. Maybe some people can guess the overall record, but to get every single game to this point correct, like to a T, when I thought it was wild, like they're going to start 5-0, then lose 3 straight games. That's crazy. And it happened exactly like that. And then just everything continued to be like 100% correct. Like, you don't ever see anything like that. So that's pretty remarkable, Nick.
Yeah. And
you know.
Congratulations. But what's funny is predictions episodes they're a lot of fun to do, and they're fun because you're getting ready for the season. Everyone's hyped, but they're throwaway episodes. Nobody's right. And nobody usually cares or even goes back to them. This is like this is the first and probably last time I can ever remember going back to a podcast 3 months ago where we're like, hey, what did he say about predicting the season again? Because most people forget the day after they watch or listen to the episode. So phenomenal.
September 6th, go back, listen. Come on, let's hop on board so you know what's going to happen. I had the script, guys. What can I say? I wasn't supposed to leak it. Don't rat me out.
It's funny. My prediction was like wild. Trey Lance in the playoffs beats the 49ers. Like, and I'm watching Monday Night Football, guys. That was the worst game of the year, right? Bears and Vikings on Monday Night Football yesterday, and I'm watching this game. I'm thinking, how the hell could the Minnesota Vikings not have been willing to spend a day 3 pick on Trey Lance, the guy from that state, knowing that you don't have a quarterback of the future, most likely because Kirk Cousins going into the walk year of his contract, and that's not even knowing about the injury. You got Tommy, I almost called him Danny. Tommy DeVito's out there playing quarterback. You know what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals? All of these teams, quarterback's the most important position in sports, and you don't value a guy as talented enough, or you don't value a guy enough that's as talented as Trey Lance. And say what you want about Trey Lance as a 49er fan, and seeing how things went with Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold and all that stuff. Like, you don't think that the Minnesota Vikings would not rather have Trey Lance trotting out there at quarterback than Joshua Dobbs, or they might even be going to some other quarterback, Jaron Hall, the rookie. They were willing to spend a draft pick on him. Nick Mullins, right? Like that's he's the backup right now. He might be playing next week for the Minnesota Vikings. Like, how could teams have not been willing to give up a 4th round pick for Trey Lance? That blows my mind. Whatever you think about Trey Lance, even if you don't like him, 4th round pick for his talent at quarterback.
I think most people would tell you, well, the league is telling you how they feel about him. Like, he's just somebody that can't play at the NFL level. We watch a lot of football. We watch a lot of 49ers. I thought I saw a lot of good things. Now, were there things where it's like, 49ers can't live with that right now? Like, there was a lot of that. And they went with the more prepared, more ready quarterback. Very understandable. But I didn't see a quarterback in Trey that just could not play the game and didn't have even more upside. Again, we're talking about a team that traded him away after 4 regular season starts and the ups and downs that came with that. It kind of reminds me of a time when Colin Kaepernick was trying to figure out a way to play in the NFL, and obviously he had the controversial kneeling, and maybe he was getting blackballed from that. But a lot of people want to say, well, no, Colin Kaepernick didn't play in the NFL anymore because he just wasn't good. He wasn't good. He wasn't great. He got beat out by Gabbard and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, he was kind of hurt that offseason and started off he started off not being 100%. And then when he actually did play on a terrible 49ers team, his stats did not say he's someone that can't play in the NFL, right? Like that's the part right there. We threw 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and that's the last time we've seen Colin Kaepernick play football. That doesn't say, oh, this is someone who just absolutely cannot play in the NFL. So when you look at Trey Lance and what he's done, I mean, there's guys that like Nate Peterman who gets a longer leash. There have been other guys that, like you said, the DeVito kid is like, dang, like these guys are on the roster, a backup, and they get to try it out there and see what they got. But like, man, we just kind of give up on Trey Lance. It's kind of weird how the NFL does that. And then the team he does go to is one of the fewer teams that, like, Cooper Rush was a good, legit backup for Dallas. Yeah, so Dallas just kind of traded for him just to see, like, all right, we'll see if we like him. We'll see what happens. Dak Prescott's playing exceptionally well this year. I know they got the butt kicked by the 49ers. Dak is playing really good football right now. Cooper Rush was like undefeated until like his last start for Cowboys when Dak was down last year. So, he's a legit backup. So Trey's kind of there, kind of developing behind the scenes, and we'll see what the long-term plans are for him. But I would assume the long-term plans is Dak Prescott. So I thought it made a lot of sense, and a lot of other people, to go to a team like Minnesota once they said they were not talking to Kirk Cousins about an extension of the contract. So from there, I was like, well, it would make sense to trade for a guy like Trey Lance. If the season isn't going great, you could play him, and you at the very least get to see, can he play football? And instead, Kirk Cousins gets hurt. You have to go to either Jaron Hall or you trade for Dobbs, who Dobbs played well, and then last night threw 100 interceptions. But it is weird, the whole Trey Lance thing, where a kid who does have a lot of talent, the NFL is saying, we don't really like the kid. But everything I saw was a kid just looked like, I'm kind of learning still how to play football. Like, I'm just learning a little bit. Bear with me. Let me get those live reps and I'll be fine. He's not going to get them in 49ers, understandably. And it looks like he might not get them on another team as well.
Yeah, do you think that it's a situation where other teams around the NFL were thinking like, oh, they'll just cut him. They're not going to get anything for him. And then Dallas was just like, throw a 4th and see if it sticks. And they're like, oh, hey, we actually got a trade offer. Like, let's take it. Let's go.
Yeah. I think timing added something to it. I think there's probably teams that would have been way willing to give up a 4th round pick, before the draft or something, but they put other plans in place. Timing was bad. Camp was over, so you didn't have an opportunity to, compete for anything. So you had to walk in cold, and everyone already had their rosters kind of set for the season. But it's funny because say what you want about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, but he's no dummy. And like, it's a smart business move. He's like, look, we got a good quarterback already, but this is a valuable asset. Why is nobody willing to spend a 4th round pick on this? It's a no-brainer situation. So, he's smart in that regard. Cowboys have done a good job building a roster, by the way. And so that's what blows my mind when Trey Lance, who maybe you didn't love him coming out. And that was one of the things I've talked with Luke Braun about, host of Locked On Vikings. Apparently they didn't have a very good grade on him. It's a different group though than was there in 2021 anyway, but they didn't have a very good grade on him. And in the draft, and even so, it's like he's shown enough. He's been coached up by Kyle Shanahan. He's shown flashes in the NFL in limited time, and he has physical ability that guys like Browning and DeVito and
PJ Tucker.
PJ Walker. No,
PJ.
Yeah, PJ Walker.
Yeah, PJ Tucker's
PJ Tucker's a basketball player.
Yeah.
Right.
we don't even know his name. That's how bad he's been in the NFL.
Right.
Those guys have shown no flashes, and so it's pretty wild.
Walker has shown flashes in the past. But again,
career 49% completion percentage or something like that in a sub touchdown to interception ratio, and Trey Lance doesn't even have that.
Well, he had a couple games where it was like, man, this is. Like, it's cool. Maybe this guy is an NFL quarterback for the Panthers. Like, he did have some of those games. But I could say the same about Trey. Like, Trey had a couple games where I'm like, okay, like, looks like an NFL quarterback. But, like we watch Bryce Young and what he's going through in Carolina. And great. Not a great situation, but still kind of all over the place. Like, you can't say with a definitive, answer that Bryce Young is either good or bad. But, the situation isn't good. Definitely not as good as a 49ers situation. But you kind of let it play out and just see. And Trey Lance, there's never been any hey, we'll just let it play out and see. And so that's the kind of the weird, that's the weird part. And Brock Purdy's a big reason for that, first of all. I mean, he played so well. It's kind of like he kicked him out the door.
I get why he's not the starter for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't get why he wasn't the backup for half the teams in the NFL. That's the thing I don't get. You're watching that Monday Night Football game, like, how could you say, nope, we're so good at quarterback that we don't want this number 3 overall pick that hasn't had an opportunity to play yet in the NFL. I mean, that's just wild to me. Next, guys,
real quick. He came in for an injured Jimmy Garoppolo in a must-win game, albeit against the Houston Texans, but it was a must-win game. Like, we're talking about, if you're looking at a backup quarterback, he completed 70% of his passes, threw multiple touchdowns, ran for another one that got called back. He threw a pick in that game. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't like this guy has no future in the league or can't be a backup quarterback. So
that was a rookie quarterback that you say, oh, cool, this is a future starter in the NFL. That's what that was. Yep. None of the other guys I've talked about have that. It's taken 2 years. It's taken 3 years of Justin Fields to find a couple games that you say that about. Fields versus Lance, week 1 last year. Lance was a better quarterback than Fields in that game. Fields made 2 plays, and those were coverage busts. And props to him for making those plays. But you watch that game, you say, I'll take Lance over Fields. Most people would. Anyway, all right, so we got to move along to some quarterbacks that are very important this week. That is Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts. Niners add a safety to the mix as well. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by DoorDash. You think of football, you think of food. You think, what's the spread for this football game? How can I get those chicken wings inside of me while I'm watching football, right? How can I get that pie, that pizza in front of my face while I'm watching this football game? Pizza, food, wings, food, whatever it is, you can get it for your game time football watch party with DoorDash. Did the game go to timeout? Time to order DoorDash. Is it halftime? That's ordering time. Think DoorDash when you think football, because that's what I do. And listeners can get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. Subject to change. Terms apply. If you're in San Francisco, maybe a little pizza hack or sourdough crust, maybe Kezar Pub, my opinion, Bourbon Bullet Wings, best wings in the city. And don't forget to use code LOCK23 for 50% off up to $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more, subject to change. Terms apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks Daily Fantasy Made Easy. PrizePicks is the most fun you will have playing fantasy football this season and winning 25 times your money potentially while you're doing it. All you do, super simple. You select 2 or more players, you pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry, and you can turn $10 into $250. And with basketball season here, they've got the Specials League now. Combo projections across football and basketball. I know Crocker has played a lot of these. And for example, Steph Curry plus George Kittle, 10.5 combo, 3 points made plus receptions. Find the Specials League for those basketball, football combos at PrizePicks. And an offer for our listeners, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL or download the app and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. I absolutely love the quarterback matchup Sunday with the 49ers and the Eagles because they're both playing at such a high level. And they might be 1 and 2 in the MVP conversation right now in the NFL. And quarterbacks get a ton of credit when their teams win and a ton of discredit when their teams lose. Both these teams have won a lot of games. And just to put it into perspective, we all know what Brock Purdy's doing, right? First in QBR, first in rating, first in a million stats, first in rating under pressure, all this stuff. Like Brock Purdy's playing phenomenal football right now. So is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback this last week against the Buffalo Bills. Comeback win, overtime win for Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback with 3 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in a game since 2020. Only other quarterbacks to do that in the last 25 years. In 2020, it was Ryan Tannehill. Other than that, in the last 25 years, the only quarterbacks to have 3 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in a game, Jeff Garcia? Tom Brady did it. 2 on the ground. Probably quarterback sneaks in there, just like the tush push from Jalen Hurts. Brady was so good at it. Michael Vick, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Josh Allen. So it's only the 18th time a quarterback has ever done that. Huge game for Jalen Hurts. Comeback win. They've been so good in the second halves of games. So good coming back. So good late. Brock Purdy has been so good when he's in front. Not quite as good coming back in games, but statistically as a passer in the pocket, still better than Jalen Hurts when you consider rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts is having a phenomenal year and leads the league in combined touchdowns, I think, with 29 now passing and running. This isn't all about, who's better? Who do you want, Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy? Trying to tear one guy down to make the other guy look better, which a lot of fans are doing. I just want to have a quarterback appreciation conversation because of how awesome Purdy and Hurts are playing and how much fun this is going to be to see Brock Purdy actually get a chance to compete for 60 minutes against that Philadelphia Eagles defense.
It was a lot of fun watching that Bills-Eagles game this weekend, right? Like, we're, as Niner fans, you're rooting for the Bills because you want to have the, we could take over first place maybe if we beat the Eagles next week. And just 2 Titan quarterbacks going head-to-head, right? And you just knew when Elliott kicked that 60-yard field goal in the rain, you're like, oh, man, the Eagles are going to find a way to win this game. And Bills go down, get a field goal. Sure enough, Jalen Hurts does what Jalen Hurts has shown that he can do. It's go out and win football games when his team needs it the most. So you're exactly right. When it comes to the metrics, right? Brock Purdy leading Jalen Hurts in almost every single statistical category, except that one, which is pretty big, which is coming from behind wins, which is what Jalen Hurts has shown time and time again that he can do. His team's never out of it. He'll figure out a way to get it done, and it's been impressive to watch. It's hard to watch also as a 49er fan because now you kind of hate the Eagles after what happened last year. But as a football fan in general, he's really good at it. And so it's fun to watch somebody go out there and really perfect their craft and just kind of show you what it's like to be that kind of quarterback. And Jalen Hurts is proving quickly that he is that guy.
I think for me, the biggest thing, you start talking about like MVP, it's those like signature wins or signature moments. And Brock Purdy definitely should be in the running. But so far, like Peacock has said, big front runner vibes a little bit, and we're still kind of waiting for him in the moments, kind of like what we've seen from Jalen Hurts to kind of come through in that clutch, like when your team really needs you, when it's like it looks like, oh no, we're down and out, and he's like, nah, don't worry, put the team on my back, and we're gonna go and we're gonna get it. And we just saw it last week against Buffalo. Now, for say we got a lot of help from the refs, but I think even outside of that, you still got to capitalize on whatever the situation is, and Jalen Hurts has done a tremendous job of that, really, like the last couple weeks. So, rightfully so, should be maybe the leader right now in MVP candidates, but I do think that Brock Purdy has a tremendous opportunity this weekend to kind of say, you know what, Hurts, you've been doing really good. I've been flying a little under the radar, but this is my coming out party, and everyone will be watching this 49ers and Eagles game. What better moment than to do it in this type of game? Even if 49ers blow him out, even if he doesn't have like that signature win comeback, where the 49ers just blow him out, and he makes it look easy like he kind of has over the last few weeks or really most of the season, I think most people would still say, man, that Brock Purdy, we might have to really take him serious as an MVP candidate.
John Chapman retweeted something really interesting today. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's from Computer Cowboy. He's talking about offensive line grades and how Philadelphia Eagles number one, when it combine pass and block, rush pass, run game stats. And you look at that, it's like, okay, that probably plays a big part in Jalen Hurts' success as well, which kind of gets overlooked, right? You just need quarterbacks, they're out there doing it themselves. Remember, there's 5 guys up front blocking for him, right? 49ers coming in at like 23rd or 24th on that ranking. So that also plays a lot into how well Jalen Hurts is playing right now.
I also think, though, the quarterback and their styles, I think Brock is more suited to be able to play behind an offensive line that isn't great, because he does such a great job of understanding where to go. He processes extremely quickly. He goes through his reads fast, and he finds the right guy. And more times than not, he's accurate within that. So if there's anyone that can offset not having a great offensive line, it's definitely Brock Purdy. And I'm not saying that, makes it any better or worse or whatever. But I think, hey, if you switch them position, maybe Brock would be just as good with Philly, and maybe Jalen Hurts takes his step back with the 49ers, because now he doesn't have as long to process. And I don't think he's like the most accurate guy. He doesn't have the biggest arm. So far, what he's kind of hanging his hat on is being like this tremendous playmaker, which he is every single week. But yeah, there is something to their offensive line not being as great. I mean, their offensive line being great, 49ers not being as good, but definitely how Brock plays, I think he's able to kind of eliminate that just a little.
We'll get a little more insight into Lane Johnson, the Pro Bowl right tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's one of the best in the league, and if he's on the injury report, if he can't go, it's a huge boost for the 49ers because of how good the Eagles are up front, and really they're built in such a way, and you got to give props to Howie Roseman of the Eagles, the GM. They're really built in a way that it all works together, and it works perfectly for the style that Jalen Hurts plays with, and some weapons on the outside to help elevate him as a passer as well. So more 49ers Eagles next. The Niners have added a free agent veteran safety to the mix, and of course we've got Winks Wish Watch next.
Boom.
Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to be make sure that you have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. You want to be in the right place with the most possible great candidates, not just candidates for your job. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn just isn't another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time and resources to hire. So thankfully, LinkedIn steps in with the process that is intuitive, quick, and easy. And they've even launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Eric Harris, the 49ers have signed the veteran safety to the practice squad. So they've still not added a third safety to the active roster, to my knowledge, Croc. And so they're still pretty thin at safety. Is he somebody that's going to be in elevation during game days now? But Eric Harris has been around the league a little bit. Croc, do you have a scout report on Eric Harris, the 49ers' new practice squad, maybe active Sunday player at safety?
Not much of a scout report. Eric Harris, I remember when I originally came across him, one of my buddies was training him. Actually, shout out to my guy, Chad. Chad was training him, and that was my first, just kind of vision of him, what he looked like, his movement skills, his ability. Then I realized, like, man, this guy's a starter for the then Oakland Raiders. So he's a guy that definitely has experience around the league. He was like a multi-year starter, played a lot of games. I think for the 49ers to kind of have that guy, and we were thinking maybe it might be Jaquiski Tartt. You start having guys go down, bring in a familiar face, somebody that might be familiar with the system. I'm not sure if there's any Eric Harris ties with Steve Wilks, but definitely getting a veteran guy who has played a lot of games, understands defense, would definitely help.
Breaking news, guys. According to Jennifer Lee Chan, also, the 49ers have signed quarterback, is it Kamon Hall? And Eric Harris to the practice squad. They released Henry Bird.
Okay.
So another secondary addition.
Couple, practice squad DBs there. Eric Harris has started 43 games for the Raiders and Falcons. So a lot of starting experience, veteran experience there. And if they want, they can elevate him on game days, Eric Harris. And so unless there's another injury, though, at the safety position, they probably won't have to worry about putting Eric Harris in there, because liked what I saw from Jair Brown in his first start last Sunday. He's going to have his hands full this week. And, of course, Sean Gibson's just been rock solid since he joined the San Francisco 49ers. Wink Wish Wash time. How about this stat real quick, though, before we get the Wink Wish Watch from Mr. Nicholas Winkler, who's tallying totals for Mitch Wishnowsky, 49ers punter, all year long and multiple years long now. Mitch Wishnowsky, 49ers punter, has dropped a whopping, this is from Nick Wagner of ESPN, 30.6% of his punts inside the opponent's 10-yard line and 13.9% of his punts inside the opponent's 5-yard line, both of which lead the NFL comfortably. For context, the punter in second place for both is 7% behind in dropping it inside the 10 and 8.7% behind it's 8.7% for dropping him inside the 5-yard line. So second place is well behind Mitch Wishnowsky. Now, I will add, Wishnowsky's job's made a little bit easier because of the field position game that the 49ers are consistently winning. It's a lot harder to drop a punt inside the 10-yard line if you're punting out of your own end zone than it is if you're punting from like the 40 or something like that. So it all plays together with the brand of football. We talk about front runners. It's not a bad thing that the 49ers are. They're winning field position. They get a lead. They lean on you with they make you one-dimensional on offense because they can lean on you with their defense. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. Their entire playbook is open to themselves on offense. Then they have field position on you, and they can punt and drop you back, and then you punt back, and now they're midfield again. And so just all these things work together with the 49ers. A lot of these things have to happen for them Sunday against the Eagles as well to help them to victory. What's the watch this week, Wink?
Yeah, last week I told you that he maybe had his worst game of the year, and it has a lot to do with what you said, right? It was punting on his own side of the field, from his own 30, from his own 25, things like that. It makes it tough to not get a big return. We saw that last week as well. But this week, the opposite, right? He had 5 punts. Officially, only 3 were inside the 20. If you watched one of those bounce out of bounds, it really looked like it was at the 19. They called it the 20, so that doesn't technically get called inside the 20. So I'm going to actually petition the league, see if we can get that one added. And then his 5th was actually resulted in a fumble. So, I mean, talk about an amazing day to the 7, to the 2, to the 13, to what I'm calling the 19.5, and a fumble. Like, that is 5 great punts from him once again. I mean, Wishnowsky, he does it continuously every single week. You hear the broadcasters starting to talk about it too, right? Oh, this guy, he's got the banana kick, and he's kicking the knuckle, this and that, and everybody's catching on to what Wishnowsky's doing out there, and he plays a huge role. You look at how the opposing team fares after a punt like that too, and like 9 times out of 10 it results in a punt of their own. So it's really amazing what Wishnowsky's doing. He's a weapon for this 49er team that I think gets overlooked quite a bit.
You get the vibe that this could be a field position game. It'll be important.
Yeah.
Every little victory, every little edge that you can get against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be super important on Sunday in Week 13. Wink, on the way out, do you want to change your preseason prediction for this one now that you're under the gun here, or are we just gonna roll with it 11-0?
I mean, if it leads to where I see it leading, we'll take the L, right? Think big, broad, overview here, guys. Let's not get caught up in just one game. Although, man, I really hope they win this football game.
Hey, real quick, and while we're on special teams, one thing that definitely helps is having a good snapper. And yep. I think Tabor Pepper, I saw him tweet something out. I kind of briefly skimmed over it, but if I remember correctly, it was along the lines of maybe the second leading vote getter for long snappers.
I saw that. Yeah.
Let's get Tabor Pepper to the Pro Bowl, guys. Come on. Tabor Pepper, friend of the program, maybe the most underrated player, not only in the 49ers, the entire NFL. You can't have a great punt, a great kick without a long snapper. So Tabor Pepper, there you go. Pro Bowl voting is open, guys. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to get in a lot of 49ers there. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Wink, thanks for joining us again on another Winky Wednesday.
My pleasure, guys.
And make sure everybody to subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And a quick reminder of the 24/7 network that the Locked On Podcast Network has launched. You can find a 24/7 sports coverage on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, the local experts, including us here on Locked On 49ers, national coverage as well. First of its kind, Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 stream. Check it out on YouTube. Croc and I will be back tomorrow. It's time for Week 13, 49ers, Eagles crossover. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers.
See you.
We do ask that you dump your trash on the way out